January is always a funny month for me. I have my year ahead readings, which I don't enjoy doing. I find them incredibly intense, but they're a part of the service I offer. So I spend probably the first 2 weeks are quite dominated by that. But for me, the new year, for those of us living in the Northern Hemisphere, really starts in early February. The sort of the Imbolc snowdrops, we know it's a full spring. We know it's going to get colder again, particularly here in the UK. But for me, that's when I feel the motivation starts to rise. And I find January an odd month because we're supposed to be fully motivated for this new year. And yet I think most people just don't. And it can be hard when we've got, a living to earn and a family to run, and we need to, in part, be in sync with the world around us because that's the world we live in, the man-made world. But I think from a more spiritual perspective, particularly, as I say, here in the Northern Hemisphere, there is a desire to be more introverted, more reflective, and perhaps just to be a little calmer. So in the January month, I do a year ahead reading for myself, though I don't do every month. I tend to do every 3 cards for each of the quarters. But most days I try to have a more reflective relationship with my cards. I try to use them as a point to slow down in my life, to let go of outcome. Because let's be honest, when we're reading tarot, it's really easy to just be focused on outcome. I want to know the answer to. I want to know how to get to there in my life. So I tend to try and have a routine where I just shuffle for a while. I find shuffling very relaxing, which is probably why my cards look quite battered. And I try to just enjoy that meditative state. And I like to pull 3 cards. And to me, and I may well do this spread on a daily basis and just keep a little mind map or a little journal. It's one that I will come back to time and time again, looking for the patterns, looking for the meanings. I like to cut the deck, but I think it's really important when it comes to shuffling and dealing the cards that you do what feels good for you. And then I like to pull 3 cards. And these 3 cards are just, what do I need to know? Because in our busy, extrovert, yang world, pausing to be more yin, more introvert, more passive with our cards, not asking a direct question, not asking for an outcome, but really just giving the cards space to speak. I find this really helpful. And it's curious. I often do 3 hours of client work in the evening. Tonight, I've only had 1 hour of client work. I was going to have to do a child lift, and now I don't. And I thought it would be a great opportunity to do a video. And then actually, after I've done that, I'm just going to take some time out, do a little bit of mindful decluttering, and just try and find some calm and some peace. Now, I know a lot of people associate the 4 of Pentacles with miser, and it can be, but it is so much more than that. And maybe it might be a nice exercise for you to just pull 3 cards and really take the time to look at the cards, because I think this card gets misrepresented as miser because people remember a keyword and they don't take the time to look. if we look at it, he has stepped away from the busyness of his life, which is exactly what I'm trying to do right now. He has a crown on. Now, in the Rider-Waite-Smith deck, there aren't many crowns. For a minor arcana character to have a full crown, to me, that has to be linking to the crown chakra. And the fact that this pentacle here is a direct link to his crown chakra. In the shamanic side of my work, I do a lot of work on the axis mundi, the importance of the connection between the crown and the roots. And I think this card really, shows that connection. He's not grasping the pentacle to him. He's kind of holding it over his heart space. To me, this is about being connected to your crown, connected to your heart, and then putting the work in to manifest whatever it is you're manifesting. I would say this is a perfect card for this time of year when it's easy to quickly set New Year goals and then by the end of January you've forgotten what they even were. Much better to think, how do I want to shape this year? To really connect with, what do I feel inspired by? How is my heart feeling? What do I have the time and the resources to put effort into? So I would say this card perfectly reflects how I want to spend this evening. The Hanged Man. I'm smiling because I did a shamanic healing on someone a couple of days ago, and I actually used the sound of Odin's rune. I used the Nordic sounds rather than the Proto-Germanic, so I used the Os. I used the Os rune on each one of his chakras. Now, this is a regular client of mine, and it was perfectly fitting for him. But at the time, I was like, wow, how Odinic can it be? Because, of course, this card is connected with Odin. Odin hung himself upon the world tree. But it's about doing things from a different perspective. One of the games you can play with tarot, because let's be honest, learning is so much more fun when we're playful, is to try and find a connection. When you do your 3-card reading, really look at the images and find the silver thread, as I call it, or the connection, the shared meaning between each of the cards. Now, I would say a shared meaning between these two cards is the importance of the heart space, even though neither of them is a cups card. In the 4 of Pentacles, we have the pentacle held over his heart. And in the Hanged Man, I always think a really important part of this card is that his heart is above his head. In the 4 of Pentacles, we've got somebody who has come away from the busyness of the everyday life to put in firm foundations and really connect with themselves. And in the Hanged Man, we've got someone who has suspended thinking, suspended everyday life to experience life from a different perspective. So I think normally I've got 2 hours left before my leisure time, I would work through them. Actually, this evening, I'm going to record this video, upload it, and then I'm going to spend some time relaxing. And I can tell you that's very rare for me. So that really resonates. And the 3rd card is the 10 of Cups. And of course, we have this feeling now, I would say, of the cards are asking me to step away and to look at my life from a different perspective. Now, the 10 of Cups, we're very much used to associating that with a long-term happy relationship. But I think it's important that we look at the cards from more unusual perspectives. And for me, one of the important symbols of this card is the fact that the cups are in a rainbow. And we know that both the artist and the author come from Christian perspectives. And in the Bible, a rainbow is God's promise. So in some ways, this is about having a vision, having a hope, and a promise from the divine that it is workable. I love the duality of, we've got the two children, and of course they can represent your inner children or your inner child. Doesn't have to be children. I've seen this represent many families where, they've got pets as their children, as it were. We obviously have the male and the female here. And I love the little detail that the top two cups are just that bit closer. It's just one of those tiny little details that I always love. And of course, the link between these three cards is that this is an incredibly heart-centered card. Now, over the years, I've learned to be quite logical. I've learned that being well organized, having common sense, and working to a plan is probably the only way to fit everything into my life. But I've outgrown that now. And I think for me, I'm really going to sit with these cards after I've finished recording and really look at them. It seems sensible, as I always do, just to turn the cards upside down as well. And there we have a much more normal me card, the Knight of Swords, the card that says, I'll get it all done. I'll squeeze it in. I'll fit it in. I work so much with to-do lists. It's a huge part of how I try to, organize my life. But it is true, living like this way, I've achieved a lot. But I'm always one step behind burnout. And I'm over that now. So I love the difference between the Knight of Swords and these three cards. And for me, this is a more meditative way of reading. We're not really asking to solve a problem. We're not focusing on an outcome. We don't even have I didn't even have a specific question. Normally, particularly in the professional reading, I like to layer lots of small readings up, looking at a problem from different angles. In a 50-minute reading, I could be doing 5, 6, maybe even more 9-card spreads, some looking at really quickly and putting back, others taking my time over. But in these calm, quiet January days, or to be more precise, trying to connect to the calm I would like to feel in these January days, when I read for myself, just pulling the three cards and the card at the bottom of the pack and taking the time to really look at the images really seems to sit with me. And for me, when I look at these three cards and find the link to the Knight of Swords, what I'm drawn to is the butterflies. We have what I've always considered anyway to be butterflies across there. A symbol of transformation and lightness. And perhaps even playfulness. And that's the energy that I am looking to embrace this year. So if you're looking to try and connect your cards in a more meditative, a more yin, a more calm way, give this a go. Don't ask a specific question. Just ask, what do I most need to know right now? Or what message do the cards have for me? Pull the three cards. Check the card at the bottom of the pack. But take some time really looking at the cards. Of course, it's great to reach for a book, to research meanings. But make sure that you don't do that until you've really taken the time to look at the cards and allow their meanings to speak to you.